So today we will look at any questions in that, anything you want to be repeated or something? Okay, so I'm assuming you're fine. If you want to let me know, right? We can go through if you need something, right? So today we will talk about joins. So joins we will be using. So till now we have selected records from a single table. But when you start working, right, you will see that it's rarely a single table that you will be using. Most of the data will be available on, it will be spread across multiple tables, right? So when we talked about RDBMS, we said the way it works is you will create tables to store details about a specific entity, right? So you will create a table called students, and then you will create a table called courses, and then you will join these two tables. So if you want to get details, full details about the students and their course, you have to join these two tables. There might be a table called faculties. There might be a table called department, right? So if you want to get complete information about the student, you will have to fetch it from multiple tables. So you will need to connect different tables together and then get the data from them. Right. So there are different ways of joining tables. So the main types that are supported in MySQL are inner joins. Then you have left join, right join, cross join, and self join, right? So in addition, there is something called an outer join, which is not supported in MySQL, right? But it's good to know what it is, because other databases like Oracle and all support outer join. So because Oracle has acquired MySQL, right? So it is very likely that that will be added soon, but at the moment it is not supported, right? And by the way, left join and left outer join are the same when it comes to MySQL. Similarly, you can say right join, or you can also say right outer join. They are the same, right? So when you want to join two tables, there should be something common between them, right? Otherwise, it doesn't make sense to join the tables. Here we are joining these because they are all related to students, right? So students will have a course. The course will belong to a particular department. There will be faculties in that department associated with the course, right? Faculty will be associated with course as well as department. Student will have a course, right? And student might have a department. So there should be something common between them. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense to join tables. You are not going to join some completely unrelated tables, right? So you are not going to connect stock prices to your degree marks, right? Or SSLC mark. So they have no connection here. So if there is nothing connecting the two tables, obviously you cannot join them. So the first thing when you are doing a join is to identify the common column. Identify the column that is connecting the two tables, right? It could be functional. You will have to know the relationship between them, right? You should functionally understand the connection between them. So based on that, you will identify the column that is connecting, identify the column that connects the table, or that is common between the two tables, right? Connects the two tables. So once you identify this, it becomes easy to write your joins. So when it comes to inner join, so what it will do is you have table one, you have the second table. Inner join will fetch you those records which are common to both tables. Right? We will see what we mean by common records. But for the moment, this is what we call inner join. Right? So one thing about all joins is after you join two tables, the resultant table will have access to all columns, right? All columns from both tables. So if table 1 has 10 columns and table 2 has 12 columns, after joining, the table will have 22 columns. It doesn't matter what kind of join you are going to do, right? So irrespective of your joins, you will have access to all the columns from all the tables after you do a join. The only thing that is different is how many records. How many records or rows will be there? That is decided by the type of join you are going to do, right? So when you do an inner join, how many records are selected? Only common records. We will see what we mean by common records, right? So only common records are selected when it comes to inner join. When it comes to left join, you have to identify which table you want to consider as the left table, which table you want to consider as the right table, right? So once you decide that, after doing a left join, the resultant table will have all the rows, right? It will have all the rows from all. So this will have all rows from the left table and common rows from the right table, right? From the right table, only these columns and all records from the left table. So this is your left join. So right join is just the opposite of that. Identify your left and right table. Table to right, right? So now if you do a right join, this will give you all the records from the right table and common records from the left table, right? So keep this in mind. After joining two tables, the number of columns in the resultant table will be equal to the sum of columns from both tables. How many rows is the one that will be different when we are doing these different joins, right? So let's first look at the inner join, and then we will move on to the other types of joins, right? So in your database, there is a table called movies. Select star from movies. And you can, there is another table called members. Right. So now you can think of these as a kind of a rental shop where they have CDs to rent. So people can take membership in the shop and take out certain movies, watch it and return, right? So let's say, so these are the, there are around 10 movies in the shop or 10 CDs in your shop, and 8 people have taken membership in your shop, right? So if you look at the columns here, you have the ID of the movie, the title of the movie, and the category. When it comes to the members table, each member has a membership ID, the first name and last name, and then you have something called the movie ID, right? So if you look at the movie ID, you can see this values. Can you see which columns are the things that are common to both tables?
ID and movie ID.
This ID and this movie ID, right? Because the values that you see here are actually coming from this column. You don't see any movies like 23, 25 and all, right? Only these values are available here. So this is the thing that is connecting the two tables, right? So when you connect two tables, you will attach them based on the common columns. So now when you do an inner join, right? So if you do an inner join, you will have access to records which are common. How many columns will be there? In this case, after joining, how many columns?
7.
7 columns, right? Because all columns from both tables. So you will have access to member ID, first name, last name, movie ID, you will also have access to ID, title, and category. Right? So now, how many records? Right? So which are the records which are common? So when you look at the common records, you can see you have one here and one here. 2 is here, 2 is here, right? So 3 doesn't have an entry here. 4 doesn't have an entry here. 5, 5, no 6 and 7. 8 is there and 10 is there, right? So these 5 records corresponding to movie ID 1, 2, 5, 8, and 10 are the records which are common to both tables, right? So after you do an inner join, these are the common records that you will have, right? So let's, why did I do that? Okay, let's write it down. So after joining, you have ID, title, and category, right? So which records will be there? You have access to 1. Corresponding to 1, you have ID 1, Assassin's Creed, and category is animation, right? Then corresponding to 2, you have ID 2, Real Steel. That is also animation. Corresponding to 5, movie ID 5, Safe. That's an action movie. Then corresponding to 8, you have Deadline, which is 18 plus. Corresponding to 10, you have 10, Marley and Me, right? And that's a romance movie. So this is what you have after you do an inner join of these 2 tables. Okay, that is a very straight line. But yeah, so this is the resultant table, right? And you can see the connection. This is where the join happens. The movie ID from member table and the ID from the movies table, right? So this is where the 2 tables have got joined. So now these are the common records. So after you do an inner join, it is as if you have a table like this. From this table, you can select whatever you want, right? So you can treat it like a single table. You can select first name, last name, title, category, right? Although it's coming from 2 separate tables, you can treat this as a single table. You can select them. You can give all conditions, right? You can say select first name, last name, ID, title, where category is equal to animation or something. So this will behave like one table, right? So how do we write the syntax for this? Select whatever you want from either table, right? You can select first name. You can give star also, in which case you will get all 7 columns. First name, last name, right? Then you can select title and category from. Now we are selecting from 2 tables, right? So from movies, inner join. Inner is optional because that's the default join. But anyway, let me write it. Movies inner join members. Now we have to say on which, how we have joined it, right? So we have to say on movie ID equal to ID, right? So this is the joining condition. This value is equal to this value, right? So this is how we have joined the table. This is the condition based on which the join is done. So this whole thing, right? So this is the table. This is actually this table. So here, if you want, you can add some where clause, right? So you can say where category is equal to animation, for example. So only those records will be selected, right? So this movies inner join members on movie ID equal to ID is this table. Is this fine? How inner join works?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So let's write it. Let's write the query. Let us select first name, or let's select star, and then we can star from movies, inner join members on movie ID is equal to ID, right? So this is the resultant table that we were talking about. So you have access to 7 columns and 5 rows. These 5 rows are the common columns from both tables. Sorry, common rows from both tables, right? So from this table, you can select whatever you want. You can say where some condition, right? Category or some condition you can mention and retrieve the records. So this is your inner join, right? When it comes to left join, writing the query is simple, right? So we will just replace inner join with the left join. Now, the table that is mentioned at the beginning will be the left table. The second table will be the right table. Or other way to look at it is look at the join keyword. The table to the left is the left table. The table to the right of the join keyword is the right table, right? So now if you consider movies to the left table and members as the right table, then if you do a left join, right, I'm treating movies as the left table, members as the right table. Because I'm doing a left join, the resultant table will have access to all the records from the left table, right, and common records from the right table. So let me select once again so that we can select from movies, select from members. Movies is my left table. So after I do a join, how many records will I have? Movies. Yeah, 10 records, right? Members. So everything from the left table will be selected. So I will have access to 10 records. So here what I will have is member ID, first name, last name, movie ID. Right. So after I do a join, left join, 1 has a corresponding record 1 here. So member ID 1, Alicia, has rented movie ID 1. 2 has a corresponding record here. So member ID 2, Don Draper, has rented movie ID 2. 3 doesn't have any record here. So I will have null value here. Null, 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 null. Then 4 also doesn't have a corresponding record. So I'll have null values. 5 has a record here. Member 3, Lizzie Moss, has rented this movie ID 5. 6 doesn't have a common record. 7 doesn't have a common record. 8 has a common record. So member 4, Eldon Chance, right? So 4, Eldon Chance has rented movie ID 8. 9 doesn't have a common record. 10, somebody has rented, who has rented 5, Jenny Patterson, right? So 5, Jenny Patterson has rented movie ID 10. Right, so this is what you will get after you do a left join of movies and members. Right, so after doing a left join, so you have 10 records. Wherever you have values from the members, those will have values here. But otherwise, you will have null values, right? For these records, you have null values. right? So let us write our query. So we will just replace. We'll just replace the left join with the right join. So instead of saying left inner join, right? So we will replace it with left join. Left, right? So now you have 10 records, and wherever you don't have matching values, you have null values. Okay. So this is your right join. Is this fine? Sorry, this is your left join. Can you tell me what happens in a right join? How many records will be there?
Yes.
8 records.
8 records, right? Because movies is my left table. Members, if you consider as the right table and do a right join, all records from the right table will be selected. If there are any common records from the left, that will be populated, right? So you will have ID, title, category, movie ID 1, Assassin's Creed animation, movie ID 2, Real Steel animation, movie ID 5, safe action, movie ID 8, what is that? A deadline, right? So this is 18 plus. Movie ID 10, Mali and Me, romance. Here you will have null values because these 3 people have not rented any movies, right? So this is the resultant table that we will get if you do a right join by taking movies as the left table and members as the right table, right? So let's just replace left join with right join. Replace the keyword left with right. Right. And this is what we get, right? So everybody from the members have been selected. All members are selected, whether they have rented a movie or not. But only movies that have been rented are printed here, right? Whereas in the previous case, all movies were listed, right? So when will you go for left join, right join? So in this case, what are we seeing? Here we want to see all members, right? We want to see all the members in our table, in our shop. And then if they have rented any movies, we want to see those movies also, right? So that is what this right join is doing. How about left join? The left join, we want to see all movies that are there in our shop. If anybody has rented it, we want to see their name against it, right? Inner join, only movies that have been rented by people we want to see. So depending upon the scenario, right? So you can use a left join or a right join. So whenever you want everything from one, right? And if at all something is there in the other table, you want to see that, then you can go for the left join. So one thing that you can, okay. So let us say you have employees, right? And they have mentioned, let's say they have taken some kind of insurance, right? So you have a table called insurance. Not all employees have taken insurance. So if you want to get the details of all employees, and if they have taken any insurance, you want to see their insurance details along with them, right? If that is the case, you will make employees as the left table, insurance as the right table, do a left join, right? So this will give you all employees. If at all they have any insurance details, that will be printed alongside it, right? On the other hand, if you want to see only the details of employees who have taken insurance, right? So in this case, you will select all insurance details. And if there are any employees who have taken that particular insurance, their details will be shown against it. So one thing about joins is, if you say, right, so you say you have T1. Let's say you say T1 left joint T2, T2 right join T1, right? So I have T1 and T2, T1 and T2, right? So this is T1, T2, T1, T2. Which is the left and right table here? Which table is left table? Which table is right table?
T1 is left.
T1 is left. T2 is right. Right. So here. Right. Yeah. Here. Look at the join keyword.
T2 is left.
I should have written T2 here and T1 here. T2 is the left table. T1 is the right table. Right. So now when I say T1 left join T2, I will get all the records from T1 and common records from T2. Right. When I say T2 right join T1, what do I get?
Right side record.
Right side record.
Complete
all
record
the
from T1.
All the records from T1 and common records from T2. Are they equivalent? All records from T1, common from T2. Right? Here also, all records from T1 and common from T2. Right? So these two are the same. Only thing is we have changed the tables around, right? If you change the tables around, whatever you can achieve using right join can be written as a left join. Only thing is you should specify the left and right tables accordingly. Right? So the end result here also, if you say T2 right join T1, is the same as saying T1 left join T2. So it's people prefer to use left join. You can actually sometimes do away with right join, right? So people don't really like using right join. Mostly people go for left join because that is more intuitive for us, right? Because we tend to read from left to right. So we find this left join more intuitive. It's not really necessary to have a right join, right? So whatever you achieve with the right join, you can achieve with the left join itself. Okay, the order of writing the tables is important. Right, if you change this around and you change this, these two will be the same. Right. So are we fine with the three joins? Left join, right join, and inner join?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
So the next type of join is cross join, right? So this is the simplest join. Cross join is one join where you don't need any common columns. You can join any table to any table, right? So it may not make any sense, but you can still go ahead and join any two tables. So what happens in a cross join is, if you have some 3 records in table 1 and 3 records in table 2, right? You take one record from table 1, connect it to all records in the second table. Then take the second record from here, connect it to all records in the other table. Take the third record, connect it to all records to the other table. right? So this join is what you call a Cartesian product or a Cartesian join. So now the resultant records, right? So will be 3 into 3. So you will have 9 records, right? If you have 8 records here and 5 records here, the resultant table will have 8 into 5, 40 records, right? So this is called a cross join or a Cartesian join.